Welcome to Higher Frequencies.
Where do you go every time you leave? Why do you always gotta go somewhere away from me? I keep wondering if someday you'll just keep holding on. And like a fool, I just keep waiting till the early comes.
If you could find your way back home again, I hope you can find your way into my arms again.
Been having a little inkling to do a podcast for a little time now, and of course, because we need another one of those. But I'm following my passions, and one of the things that's really gets me going anytime I'm talking, with spiritual folks is getting on consciousness and plant medicines and the game of life and where I believe this thing is heading. So I'm gonna play with this a little bit. I'm gonna give it a shot and see if I have some fun with it. And who knows? I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, but yeah, I wanted to give it a shot. And when I was thinking about this thing, like I had a dream, and like this name came to me in the dream, higher frequencies, which is very cool. So that was almost a year ago, and it's taken me a little while to get here, but it finally feels like an authentic place where I want to start talking about some things. You know, I want to start, talking about consciousness and spirituality and plant medicines, and I guess my journey from going from being a shell of a man to, whatever the hell I am now, just, I guess, living, a happy life on my way to something I never thought would be possible. And yeah, I want to share how I got there and the modalities and the insights and some of these rules of the games that I'm experiencing that can make life so much easier. So let's give it a shot, anyways. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just kind of telling my story, starting back to, I guess, whenever, from a happy go lucky, kid in PEI to where I'm at today. And then hopefully I can, then we'll get into some specific topics. I got some folks I'd like to do some guest hosts with, but yeah, let's start with the story. So yeah, this little idiot from PEI, just loving life, great family, great experience, and just working my way through the game of life, doing what I was told, doing what society told us to do, work hard, go to school, work as hard, get that education, get the good job, bust your ass off, then you'll get the house, you'll get the woman, and then voila, you'll have all your dreams and, everything you'll want, and you'll be a success in life. So I did that, I moved to Halifax and, went to university. It was really good, found a great job at an accounting firm and said, heck, I may as well stick with it, and it's working the whole way through. And I got my CPA. I'm like, all right, I'm almost done. I'm almost finally done at this 50, 60, 70-hour week bullshit. I'll be able to kind of have a life and do some traveling and all this stuff. But even at that point, I was like, no, okay, just need to keep working a little harder. I need to get the money for a house, and I got to pay off this big ass student loan, and now I just need to work for a couple years, and that was fine, and I did that for a while, and then I don't know, back in the day at these accounting firms and stuff, you were just expected to work your ass off, and it was supposed to be for 4 months of the year, and then it's not so bad, and And at that time, it just seemed like busy season never end. We just didn't have the right staff, or it wasn't even that. We just, I don't know, it was just craziness. So I got an opportunity to go. I got an offer to go work for this, nonprofit organization. That, what the hell? Why not? The firm told me, you can always come back, and it was just like I needed something different in life. I needed like I needed to see what that other side was like, and just to have some more time to myself. And at first that was kind of nice for a little bit, but soon it was like a year or two into that, and I was just like, okay. So then I bought a house too, because I was only working 40 hours a week, and so I got this investment property, because holy fuck, by then I didn't even know what my passions or my interests or anything, what the hell to do with myself outside of work, because that's all I did since I was 18 years old. Was just bust my ass off, and sure, play a little guitar, play some pool with the guys, and play some poker and stuff. But I never really tapped into any of my true creative passions, and all of that stuff was stomped out of my creativity, and my uniqueness was stomped out of me in the what we call school. The modern day school, which is really just training kids, to be workers. Let's be honest. There's a reason why it's structured exactly like a work day, and they don't. You got to raise your hand and stand in line and not be unique and creative and just memorize stuff. Anywho, we'll talk about that after. But and yeah, and so fuck. I get there, and then that job that was it was easy. I was making lots of money, and the boss liked me until I stood up against his bullshit, and then it was just a nightmare. Uh, so yeah, I did everything society told me. I had all, like, finally paid off. Had a house. It was working. Had a car, and I was fucking miserable. And it was just like that was probably the least unhappiest I've ever been when I finally kind of reached that so-called top of the mountain. And there's other factors that played into that too. I had an amazing friend group, um, all throughout Halifax and stuff. But people move on. They do different stuff, and then I just kind of got lost in the sauce, literally, because I was so miserable, and so I just um, I just started drinking every fucking night, just to just to ease I don't know, just to fucking escape. Just escape, really. And, like, don't get me wrong, I always loved drinking. I was drinking since I was 12 years old, but it was for fun. It was for, having a good time. It wasn't for, because you're, living a shell of a man. And it was just like something was missing, you know what I mean? And I didn't know anything about spirituality, or, like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. And at this point, I was so, like, lost and weak. I didn't even really want to quit the job, because it was just like, well, then what the hell am I gonna do? I had no, like, I had little confidence at that point. So it was really just I had to fucking do something, and it just got to a point where it was getting ugly. Work this job that was just toxic, and trying to do my best there, and but it wasn't working at all. And then go home, drink a pint of whiskey, have a couple beers, smoke a joint, pass out, do it all over again. Hopefully, get enough time on the weekend and find something fun to do, to escape it even more, chase some women. And I've had great relationships along the way there too that really, you know, kept me remotely happy. It kept me happy until until it ended. But everything happens for a reason. And I had to get pushed in that direction to be able to really try and find my true self, and to go on the path that I was meant to go on. But when I was in that super depressed stage, addicted, like, just, yeah, just using booze to escape life. I went to my doctor, and I told him this, and of course he did what he's taught to do. He gave me some pills, and that's not their job to deal with mental health. And we can have many episodes on health and how we need to return to holistic approaches and natural remedies and all of this stuff. But the only thing that was helping me at this time was microdosing LSD, and my I told my doctor that, and he just like looked fucking disgusted and was like, "You can't do that," and da 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 da. But luckily he prescribed me these pills, and I tried them. Fuck 'em. I was like desperate at that point, and that's when I actually hit the rock bottom. That's when it was like absolutely like killed me, like literally almost, and maybe not literally, but it felt like I was dead. And then I knew I was on my own. I tried the traditional talk therapy and other things like that. It just wasn't working. It wasn't enough. It wasn't doing it for me. So, I knew I was like, okay, I can't, there's no way out of this thing. I gotta figure this out myself. I gotta, pull up my pants and do some hard work here and try to sort this out. So I did, I did the research, and, it all starts with getting your life force back in order, right? As far as like the depression and anxiety and that stuff goes. So, got back on the drinking, working out all the time, eating well, good sleep, good schedule, started meditating. And, all right, that's okay. It was like, all right, I'm kind of finding something, find a little something. And so I kept going on it. But really, what changed everything was during the virus, I was able to reconnect with mushrooms again. And that changed everything. Now, again, I'm from Prince Edward Island, where, in my humble opinion, the best goddamn mushrooms in the world grow for free, the Liberty Caps. I mean, at least I haven't tried anything better. And a dear friend of mine was able to find some naturally foraged Liberty Caps and reached out. So I said, hell yeah, let's go. And I remember that first dose that I took, it was, again, during the lockdowns or whatever, just falling to my knees and just being like, holy shit, this is what I was missing. I just forgot who I was. I forgot the feeling of love and this, like, again, because I was like so stuck in this game that I was told of just searching for like these titles and the money and the possessions and the things that are supposed to make you happy. And when I got all those fucking things, again, it's like you realize, no, that's none of it. It didn't do didn't do anything. So, but the mushroom was like, welcome home, baby. It's like we missed you. And it was just this feeling of love and just this connection to home and myself. And I had hope. I was like, yes, this is it. I know that this is inside of me. This isn't just a high that, they were showing me a piece of my soul. And so that was the beginning of the other, a long-lasting, loving relationship with mushrooms, and doing deep dives to be able to heal myself, to be able to go through my traumas, insecurities, and all my bullshit. Uh, yeah, try to find myself again. That was good. So that led me to ayahuasca. A dear friend of mine was putting on ceremonies in Atlantic, Canada, actually, and flew in a shaman and the medicine, and just absolutely wonderful. That like put me through a meat grinder. Like I can't even begin to describe that experience. As I sit here in Peru, actually, after just having a ceremony yet 3 days ago, but that's for a later episode, and we're not going to get into that in the intro. Still integrating that experience. Whew. That wasn't a healing journey. That was a discovery journey. That was a, yeah, again, I'll shut up. uh, so yeah, that put me on this other path and kind of gave me this life plan of like, you know, again, it wasn't really even, it put me through this weird meat grinder. And then at the end of it, I had this clarity of like, you need to, cut the bullshit and like, either get into this job or get out and reconnect with your friends. And, I knew deep down, but it just provided me some very clear answers and instructions. So that was great. And then during those ceremonies as well, these wonderful human beings were talking about dimethyltryptamine, DMT. And, I'd never really heard of that before, except for maybe, I think maybe I might have heard of, Joe Rogan talk about it before, or like, or after then I heard about it when I started researching about, what this what this magical substance is, and what it does. What they were just saying, it's 15 minutes long. You go into another dimension. Sometimes there's different entities you talk to, and I was just at this point, I was still very, very lost, still new on my discovery healing journey. So I put my name in the hat and just said, hey, if you can find this thing, like, let me know. And then sure enough, I got the call and eventually got some DMT, and holy shit. At first I couldn't shut the fuck up about it because it's a very, we'll have probably many episodes about this substance because it's something that I've been experimenting with for years now, and for years I did it very quietly, and you'll understand why, I guess, in some of the other episodes. It took me for quite a bit of a little ride, and I understand what all that is about now. They were essentially, yeah, we'll get into that later. But at first, it was just like, again, just this whole new world of like going to hyperspace. And, at first, the DMT just kind of wants to get to know you, I think, and it's different for everyone. And maybe not that much happens. Maybe everything happens. And it's still different for me every single time. They'll show you what you need to see and what you're ready to see, depending on where you're at in the game. Or if it's not the substance for you, then yeah, maybe not too much. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It is what it is. But for me, yeah, I couldn't shut up about it. I just kind of, because it just completely started opening up the realms of possibility to, like, wait a minute, I knew something was wrong with all this bullshit that, I did everything that they told me to do. And it started allowing me on the path to find some truths of life, to smell out the bullshit. Because there's no hiding from yourself in those realms. There's no hiding from anything. It's truth with a capital T. And a lot of trickery. But, trickster energy for all the right reasons. And hilarious things too. But yeah, that was, that kind of changed everything for me. And there was one really profound trip that, kind of, that was the thing that shattered everything in my reality. I guess you call it a little peek behind the veil. And you can't describe something like that. But coming out of that experience, I just was like, holy fuck. Everything that I have been taught is a goddamn lie. Nobody really knows what the hell we're doing on this plane. Actual, I mean, some sages and Sufis and all of this stuff, sure. Um, some very wise, enlightened individuals, sure, but very few. And that put me on the path of like, what am I doing? Wasting my life. Showed me everything that I kind of needed to see at that time, at least. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. It's kind of going from this depressed alcoholic man, first of all, from like this happy-go-lucky. I was always just trying to, again, well, I was always trying to make people happy because I had a severe people pleasing concept from things in childhood where I was seeking attention, which again, you start to figure out the programs once you go down these paths, and what some of your actions and stuff. So I'm going to get into all of those, and how we can identify those things, and how we can move on from it and find our true authentic selves and tap into our creative potentials, and you know how to be a happy human. And for some people that's a given and it's easy. And but the suffering I see in the world, and how crazy this game has gotten. When I call it a game, I like to refer to to life as the game of life. To me, it's we fuck around on this earth for eternity. However many lives I've lived, who knows? Um, I don't know. You know, who knows what this thing is? But what I do know is that it can be a very fun, super fulfilling experiences if we can tap into some of these truths and find and open our heart. That's the main thing. And to really tap into love, to real love, not lust and all of this crazy stuff, all the shadow frequencies. So yeah, to get into the higher frequencies, right? So here I am, I'm just like, feel again, one of my, mantras is I'm the luckiest man in the world. And I feel from what I've been able to experience and where I've been able to come over the last 5 years, I truly feel like that. And, here I am in Peru in the Sacred Valley. You want to talk about higher frequencies, there's something in these mountains. It's truly magical. And so hopefully we can tie some of those stories back in too. But I think that's enough just to kind of give a little teaser for the intro, and I'll continue on from there and kind of try to get caught up to where we're at today. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it and tag along. Ciao.